Dr. Amara Patel shivered despite her thermal suit as she trudged across the Greenland ice sheet. The midnight sun cast long shadows across the pristine white landscape, but her attention was fixed on the anomalous readings from her ground-penetrating radar. Something massive lay beneath the ice, something that shouldn't be there. "Base, are you seeing these readings?" she called into her radio, adjusting the sensitivity on her equipment. The metallic structure buried beneath nearly a kilometer of ice was unlike anything she'd encountered in 15 years of studying climate change impacts. "Confirmed, Doctor," replied Marcus, her research assistant back at the station. "Whatever it is, it's definitely not natural formation. The geometric patterns are too precise." As Amara carefully marked the location, a low-frequency vibration began to emanate from beneath the ice. The surface trembled, and she stumbled backward as cracks began to spiderweb outward from the center of her survey site. The ice groaned and shifted as something massive began to rise from its frozen prison. "Marcus, get me satellite coverage now," she shouted into her radio, but only static answered. As she watched in stunned silence, a gleaming silver craft the size of a small building emerged from the ice, hovering silently in the Arctic air. Its surface rippled like liquid mercury, defying every law of physics she knew. A soft blue light enveloped her, and Amara felt her feet leave the ground. As panic seized her chest, a gentle voice echoed in her mind, "Be not afraid, Earth-child. We mean you no harm." The voice belonged to Queen Lysandra of the stellar Concordat, as Amara would soon learn. Their civilization had seated monitoring stations across the galaxy millennia ago, waiting in suspended animation for species that might help them solve their greatest crisis. Human genetic diversity, shaped by thousands of generations of adaptation and survival, held the key to saving their dying race from genetic stagnation. But first contact didn't go as smoothly as the Concordat had hoped. Within hours, military aircraft surrounded the site. Amara found herself acting as an impromptu diplomat, trying to prevent an international incident while simultaneously grappling with the biggest scientific discovery in human history. "They're not hostile," she insisted to Colonel Richard Hayes, who'd arrived with the first wave of NATO forces. "They've had technology capable of destroying us for longer than our species has existed. If they wanted to harm us, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The colonel's weather-beaten face remained skeptical, but he lowered his weapon. "Then what do they want?" Before Amara could answer, Queen Lysandra's form shimmered into existence beside them. Her crystalline body structure caught the Arctic sunlight, creating rainbow refractions across the snow. Several soldiers raised their weapons, but Hayes held up his hand. "We seek partnership," Lysandra's melodic voice echoed in all their minds. "Our civilization faces extinction from genetic degradation caused by millennia of technological advancement without biological evolution. We believe humanity's genetic diversity holds the key to our survival." "And what's in it for us?" Hayes asked, ever the pragmatist. "Knowledge," Lysandra replied. "Technology beyond your imagining. Medical advances that could eliminate disease. Clean energy that could reverse your climate crisis." Her crystalline form turned to Amara. "Your world stands at a crossroads. Together, we could ensure both our species survive to see the stars." Over the next several hours, Amara helped facilitate the initial dialogue between human military leaders and the Concordat representatives. She watched in amazement as Lysandra shared holographic displays of their civilization's history, vast crystal cities among the stars, technological marvels beyond human comprehension, and the creeping genetic illness that threatened to end it all. As the midnight sun circled the horizon, Amara realized that everything she'd dedicated her life to, understanding Earth's climate, preserving humanity's future, had suddenly expanded beyond her wildest dreams. The Concordat needed humanity's genetic diversity, but humanity needed their technology to survive its own looming environmental catastrophe. "I'll help," she told Lysandra as they watched military helicopters ferry diplomatic personnel to and from the site. "But we'll need to proceed carefully. Human history is full of first contact scenarios in fiction, and they rarely end well. Lyssandra's crystalline form shimmered with what Amara was beginning to recognize as amusement. Perhaps it is time to write a new story, Dr. Patel. One where both our species learn from each other's strengths and overcome our weaknesses together. As the Arctic wind whipped around them, Amara couldn't help but smile. Whatever came next would change everything, but for the first time in years, she felt hope for humanity's future among the stars. 6 months after first contact, the Arctic Research Station had transformed into a cutting-edge genetic research facility. Amara stood before a holographic display of DNA sequences, comparing human and concordat genetic structures alongside Dr. Raven Singh, one of Earth's leading geneticists, and Nixus, the concordat's chief biological engineer. The degradation in your species' genetic code is fascinating, Raven mused, manipulating the hologram with practiced gestures. It's like watching evolution in reverse. Your technological advancement actually accelerated your genetic decay. Nixus's crystalline form pulsed with subtle colors. What Amara had learned was their equivalent of a resigned sigh. Our mastery of technology eliminated natural selection. We could cure any disease, modify any trait. But in doing so, we lost something essential. Adaptability, Amara interjected, thinking of her climate research. Human DNA still carries markers from every environmental challenge our species has faced: ice ages, famines, diseases. We're messy, imperfect, but resilient. The facility hummed with activity as human and alien scientists worked side by side. The Genesis Protocol, as they'd named their joint research initiative, represented humanity's first steps into galactic genetic science. But not everyone welcomed this rapid advancement. A commotion at the security checkpoint drew their attention. Colonel Hayes entered with a grave expression, accompanied by 2 members of the International Science Council. Dr. Patel, Dr. Singh, he nodded curtly. We have a situation. Someone leaked research data to the public. Social media is exploding with conspiracy theories about alien genetic experiments. There are protests forming outside major research centers worldwide. Amara's heart sank. They'd known public revelation would be challenging, but they'd hoped to control the narrative. How bad is it? Bad enough, Hayes replied. Religious groups are calling it an affront to natural law. Bioethicists are demanding oversight. And certain nations are suggesting we're giving away humanity's genetic heritage to alien overlords. Nixus's form flickered with distress. Perhaps we moved too quickly. We should have anticipated this resistance. No, Raven said firmly, pulling up their latest research results. Look at what we've already accomplished. The genetic therapy we're developing could cure dozens of human hereditary diseases. And we're closer than ever to understanding the root cause of the concordat's genetic degradation. Amara studied the data, remembering something from her climate research. It's like environmental adaptation on a cosmic scale. The concordat achieved perfection but lost the ability to change. Humanity is still evolving, still fighting to survive. Maybe that's exactly what your species needs. Nixus moved closer to the display, their crystalline structure refracting light in complex patterns. You may be right. Our initial analysis suggested human DNA could help us, but we never fully understood why. It's not just about genetic diversity, it's about the capacity for change itself. As if to underscore the point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathed the lab in red as Hayes rushed to a communication terminal. We've got unauthorized aircraft approaching, he reported grimly. Military jets, not ours. They're not responding to hails. Nixus's form pulsed with urgent colors. The backup data cores, if they're destroyed, we lose months of research. I'll handle the evacuation protocols, Hayes said, already moving. Dr. Patel, Dr. Singh, grab what you can and get to the secure bunker. But Amara had another idea. Nixus, your ships can transmit data faster than our networks, right? Could we broadcast our research findings to everyone, right now? Not just the scary headlines, but the real science. A full data dump to the public? Raven looked shocked. That's incredibly risky. Most people won't understand the technical details. They don't need to understand everything, Amara argued. They just need to see we're not hiding anything. Transparency might be our best defense. Nixus's colors shifted rapidly as they considered. It would go against Concordat protocols, but perhaps that's exactly why we should do it. We need to adapt, to change our ways just as we seek to change our genetics. Their fingers flew over the holographic controls, interfacing with Concordat communications technology. Within seconds, every phone, computer, and television on Earth began receiving detailed documentation of the Genesis protocol, raw data, research notes, and video logs showing human and alien scientists working together to solve problems neither species could tackle alone. As the facility shook with the sound of sonic booms overhead, Amara watched the first social media reactions appear in real time. For every angry denouncement, there were dozens of fascinated responses from citizens worldwide. Students, scientists, and curious minds everywhere began downloading and analyzing the data, starting impromptu discussion groups and citizen science initiatives. Look at this, Raven breathed, pointing to a trending hashtag. Hashtag Genesis for All was just born. People are organizing to support the research. Hayes returned, looking both relieved and puzzled. The bogies just turned around. Standing down from alert status. He eyed the streams of data flowing across their screens. I'm guessing this is your doing? Amara nodded, watching as the first peer reviews of their research began appearing from scientists around the world. Sometimes the best way to fight fear is with facts. We're not just combining human and alien genetics, we're combining our ways of thinking, our approaches to problems. Speaking of combining approaches, Nixus interjected, their form brightening with excitement, these public responses have given me an idea. What if we created a global citizen science network? The Concordat has the technology to process vast amounts of data, but humans have something we lost long ago, creativity in problem solving. As the crisis subsided and the facility returned to normal operations, Amara couldn't help but smile. In trying to save the Concordat's genetic future, they might have just revolutionized how humans and aliens could work together. The Genesis protocol was becoming something far greater than they'd initially imagined, a bridge between species, between ways of thinking, between past and future. The United Nations General Assembly buzzed with tension as Amara adjusted her microphone. 1 year after first contact, she faced the daunting task of presenting the Genesis protocol's progress to world leaders. Queen Lysandra's crystalline form shimmered beside her, while Dr. Raven Singh sat with other scientific advisors. The genetic therapies we've developed have already shown promising results, Amara explained, gesturing to the holographic displays. Childhood genetic diseases previously considered untreatable are showing unprecedented recovery rates. The Concordat's technology, combined with human genetic diversity, is revolutionizing medicine. The Russian representative stood, his expression stern. And what do these aliens take from us in return? Our genetic data? Our very essence? How do we know this therapy isn't changing human DNA to serve their purposes? Before Amara could respond, the Chinese delegate jumped in. We demand equal access to all genetic technology. No single nation should control this research. That's exactly what we're proposing, Raven interjected, stepping forward. A truly international effort, with transparent oversight and shared benefits. The debate raged for hours. Some nations saw opportunity in collaboration with an advanced civilization. Others feared cultural contamination or loss of human identity. Through it all, Lysandra observed with an otherworldly patience that Amara had come to admire. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Concordat's massive research vessel received an encrypted transmission. Captain Viktor Petrov of the Russian Space Force watched his superior's face materialize on the secure channel. "The package is in place," the general said cryptically. "When the signal comes, you will know what to do." Viktor's hand trembled as he acknowledged the order. In his 20 years of service, he'd never questioned his duty. But after months of working alongside the Concordat crew, seeing their genuine desire to help humanity, doubt gnawed at him. Back at the Arctic facility, Nixis was making a breakthrough. "Dr. Patel, Dr. Singh. The genetic degradation, it's not just biological. Look at this pattern." The holographic display showed an intricate dance of molecules, but something was off. Amara might not be a geneticist, but she recognized chaos theory when she saw it. "It's like climate systems," she breathed. "Complex, interconnected, and these patterns, they're almost like quantum entanglement," Raven finished, eyes wide. "The Concordat's genetic structure isn't just breaking down, it's losing its quantum coherence. Their advanced technology actually altered the quantum state of their DNA. Which is why human genetics are so valuable," Nixis explained, their form pulsing with excitement. "Your DNA still maintains natural quantum states, shaped by billions of years of evolution rather than artificial manipulation." The implications were staggering. It wasn't just about genetic diversity, human DNA contained fundamental patterns that the Concordat had lost in their rush to perfection. But before they could explore this revelation further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Colonel Hayes burst in. "We've got multiple breaches. Someone's trying to access the central data core, and we've got unauthorized personnel in the lower levels." Amara's blood ran cold. "The quantum data, if someone's trying to steal it." "It's worse than that," Nixis interrupted, their crystalline form flickering with distress. "If they disrupt the containment fields around our quantum research samples, the cascade failure could destroy both human and Concordat genetic material. All our work would be lost." In orbit, Captain Petrov received the dreaded signal. His orders were clear: disable the Concordat vessel's shields, allowing special forces to seize their technology. But as his finger hovered over the command console, he thought of Dr. Patel's words about trust and cooperation. Making his decision, Viktor opened a channel to the Arctic facility. "Dr. Patel, this is Captain Petrov. You have incoming hostiles, multiple vectors. I was supposed to help them, but..." He took a deep breath. "I'm sending you their positions instead." Lysandra, who had just returned from the UN, took immediate action. Her form blazed with light as she accessed the facility's systems. "We can contain this, but I need your help. All of you. This is the moment where trust becomes more than words." Working together, humans and aliens raced to secure the facility. Hayes coordinated security teams while Raven and Nixis worked to stabilize the quantum samples. Amara found herself in the control center, using her knowledge of complex systems to predict and counter the infiltrators' movements. As the crisis unfolded, something remarkable happened. News of the attack spread, and offers of help poured in from around the world. Citizen scientists who had been studying the Genesis protocol data identified potential security breaches. International hackers turned their skills to defending the facility's networks. Even rival nations' military forces stood down, recognizing that this research was too important to destroy. Hours later, as security teams led away the last of the infiltrators, Amara stood with Lysandra, watching the midnight sun paint the Arctic ice in brilliant colors. "Your Captain Petrov took a great risk," Lysandra observed. "As did all who helped us today." "Why?" Amara smiled, thinking of how far they'd come. "Because they saw what we've seen, that we're stronger together than apart. Human or alien, we're all just trying to survive, to evolve, to become better than we are." Perhaps, Lysandra's form sparkled with what Amara now recognized as hope, that is the greatest lesson of the Genesis Protocol. Not just the mixing of genes, but the mixing of trust, of cultures, of ways of thinking. As if to underscore her point, Raven and Nixus emerged from the lab, their excitement palpable. "You need to see this," Raven called. "The quantum data from the attack, it showed us something we've been missing. We think we know how to stabilize the Concordat's genetic structure, and it's more beautiful than we imagined." In the aftermath of the attack, the Arctic facility's quantum genetics lab hummed with unprecedented activity. Holographic displays filled the air with intricate patterns of DNA structures and quantum probability fields as Raven and Nixus presented their discovery to an astounded audience. "It's not just about combining our genetic material," Raven explained, manipulating the complex display. "The quantum entanglement patterns in human DNA act like a natural stabilizing force. We evolved with these patterns intact because we developed slowly, naturally." Nixus's crystalline form pulsed with excitement as they continued the explanation. The Concordat's rapid technological advancement disrupted these natural quantum states. Our genetic modification technology, while powerful, ignored the quantum level entirely. We were fixing the surface while damaging the foundation. Amara watched the swirling patterns, reminded of climate systems she'd studied for years. "Like atmospheric patterns," she mused. "You can't change one part without affecting the whole system." Queen Lysandra stepped forward, her form casting rainbow refractions across the lab. "Show them what you discovered during the attack." Raven nodded, bringing up new data streams. "The containment field disruption actually helped us. When the quantum samples were destabilized, we observed something remarkable. Human DNA naturally reformed its quantum patterns, even under extreme stress. It's not just resilient, it's self-correcting at the quantum level." Colonel Hayes frowned. "In English, Doctor?" "We can use human DNA as a template," Nixus explained. "Not to change Concordat genetics, but to teach them how to maintain their own quantum stability. Like teaching a computer to repair itself using organic principles." The implications stunned everyone present. This wasn't just about saving the Concordat, it was about fundamentally changing how both species approached genetic science. The solution wasn't to force change, but to learn from natural processes that had evolved over billions of years. "We'll need to modify the Genesis Protocol," Amara said, already thinking ahead. "This isn't just about medical applications anymore. We're talking about evolutionary computing, quantum biology." "And it goes both ways," Raven added excitedly. "The Concordat's technology could help us understand and protect our own genetic quantum states. We could prevent our own species from following their path." As the team worked to implement their discoveries, word spread throughout both human and Concordat societies. The breakthrough captured imaginations worldwide. Here was proof that advancement didn't have to mean losing touch with natural evolution. Captain Petrov, now working openly with the project as a liaison, brought concerning news. Other nations are accelerating their own genetic research programs. They're trying to replicate our results without understanding the quantum implications. "Then we need to move faster," Lysandra decided. "Not with the science, but with sharing knowledge. We've learned that secrets and competition only lead to destruction." The next few weeks saw an unprecedented open science initiative. The Genesis Protocol team began worldwide broadcasts, teaching the principles of quantum genetics to anyone willing to learn. Citizen scientists contributed observations and ideas. Traditional healers shared generational knowledge about human adaptation that proved surprisingly relevant to quantum stability. In orbit, the Concordat vessel became a symbol of cooperation, hosting scientists from every nation. Old rivalries faded as humanity faced the challenge of helping another species while preserving their own future. But the real test came when they began the first full-scale treatment of a Concordat volunteer. Nixus, in an act of tremendous courage, offered to be the first subject. Your genetic patterns will be used to teach my DNA how to maintain quantum stability, Raven explained during the preparation. We're not changing who you are, just helping you remember what your species once knew naturally. Amara held her breath as the procedure began. Quantum fields hummed. Crystalline structures glowed. For a moment, Nixus's form seemed to fade almost to transparency. Then, gradually, their form began to shine with new brilliance. The crystalline structure, while still distinctly concordate, showed subtle new patterns that shifted and flowed like living light. How do you feel? Lysandra asked, her own form resonating with concern. Nixus examined their altered structure with wonder. I feel complete. As if I've awakened from a long dream. The patterns, I can sense them now, maintaining themselves just as they should. Medical scans confirmed what they could all see. Nixus's genetic structure had achieved quantum stability, maintaining its unique concordate characteristics while incorporating the natural resilience of human DNA patterns. This is more than a cure, Lysandra declared, her form blazing with joy. This is evolution itself, not forced, not engineered, but guided by the wisdom of two species working together. As news of the successful treatment spread, applications began pouring in from both concordate and human volunteers. The Genesis protocol was transforming from a desperate bid for survival into something far more profound, a bridge between natural evolution and technological advancement. We did it, Amara whispered, watching as human and alien scientists celebrated together. We found a way forward that doesn't sacrifice who we are. Raven smiled, already examining data from Nixus's successful treatment. We did more than that. We proved that the next step in evolution isn't about becoming perfect, it's about learning to change while staying true to our nature. 5 years after the breakthrough, Amara stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's first joint human concordate space facility. Below her, the blue marble of Earth rotated serenely, while above, the crystalline spires of the concordate section caught starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Still taking in the view? Raven's voice came from behind her. Her old friend and colleague had aged well, the Genesis protocol's medical applications having eliminated the early signs of arthritis that had plagued their work in the Arctic. Some things you never get tired of seeing, Amara replied, turning to face him. Hard to believe how far we've come in 5 years. The station itself was a testament to their progress. Human ingenuity combined with concordate technology had created something entirely new, a place where both species could live and work together comfortably. The quantum genetics lab at its heart was the most advanced in known space. Nixus emerged from a nearby corridor, their crystalline form now exhibiting the stable, flowing patterns that had become characteristic of the treated concordate. The latest results from the long-term evolution study are ready. I think you'll both want to see this. In the main laboratory, Queen Lysandra awaited them alongside Colonel Hayes, now General Hayes, Earth's primary military liaison to the concordate. The holographic display showed a complex web of genetic data from both species. The quantum stability patterns are becoming self-sustaining, Nixus explained, manipulating the display. Both human and concordate DNA are showing signs of natural adaptation without losing their essential characteristics. Even more interesting, Lysandra added, her form shimmering with excitement, we're seeing evidence of convergent evolution. Not merging or hybridization, but parallel development. Our species are learning from each other at the genetic level. The implications were staggering. The Genesis protocol hadn't just saved the concordate, it had opened up new possibilities for both species' evolution. Humans gained protection against genetic degradation from advanced technology, while the concordate regained their ability to adapt naturally. The public education initiative has been equally successful, General Hayes reported. Over 60% of Earth's population has completed basic quantum genetics training. People understand now, this isn't about changing who we are, it's about growing together. Amara smiled, remembering the early days of panic and protest. Now, Concordat healing centers operated openly in major cities worldwide, while human scientists worked in crystalline laboratories on distant worlds. Cultural exchange had followed scientific cooperation, enriching both civilizations. "We've received an interesting proposal from the Galactic Council," Lysandra announced. "They want us to jointly lead a task force on evolutionary stability. Other advanced civilizations are showing signs of similar genetic degradation. They want our help?" Hayes asked, surprised. "Both of us?" "That's the point," Raven said. "We've proven that the best solutions come from combining different perspectives. The Concordat's technology and humanity's connection to natural evolution, it's a powerful combination." A soft chime interrupted them. The station's viewing window shifted, showing a massive Concordat vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel. Its crystalline surface now incorporated subtle curves and organic patterns, a visual representation of how their civilization had changed. "The first graduating class," Nixis said proudly. 500 human and Concordat scientists, trained together in quantum genetics and evolutionary theory. Ready to help other worlds facing similar challenges. Amara watched as smaller ships began departing the vessel, carrying teams to their assigned worlds. Each ship bore a new insignia, a double helix intertwined with crystalline patterns, symbolizing the partnership between their species. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked Lysandra. "That day in the Arctic, when you first emerged from the ice?" The Concordat Queen's form sparkled with what Amara had learned was their equivalent of laughter. "I hoped for survival. You showed us something greater, how to thrive through cooperation rather than perfection." Speaking of thriving, Raven interjected, "the terraforming project on Mars is ahead of schedule. The quantum-stabilized organisms are adapting faster than predicted. We might see the first open-air colonies within a decade." This was perhaps the most profound change of all. Humanity had gained the stars, not through conquest or competition, but through partnership and mutual growth. The Genesis Protocol had evolved from a desperate bid for survival into a philosophy of cooperative advancement. As if to underscore the point, a group of children ran past the laboratory, human kids playing with young Concordat, their laughter and crystalline chimes mixing in joyful harmony. They were the first generation to grow up with this partnership, for whom cooperation between species was simply normal. "The Quantum Genetics Council is waiting," Nixis reminded them. "We need to review the proposals for the new deep space research stations." As they made their way to the council chamber, Amara paused for one last look at Earth. The planet seemed different now, not an isolated cradle of humanity but part of something larger, a future where evolution and technology, nature and progress, different species and cultures could all grow together. "You know," she said, catching up with her colleagues, "I still have that original soil sample from the Arctic. The one that first showed the anomalous readings. You should donate it to the museum they're building," Hayes suggested. "People should remember how this all started." "How what started?" asked a young human scientist, newly arrived at the station. Lysandra's form brightened. "The future," she said simply. "A future none of us could have achieved alone." Together, they entered the council chamber, ready to face whatever new challenges awaited them among the stars. The Genesis Protocol had taught them that the greatest achievements come not from perfection, but from embracing change while remaining true to oneself, a lesson that would guide both species for generations to come.